I'm Not Allowed Past Dudley, by Jon Cronshaw. 22 years I've been driving the number 12. Wolverhampton to West Bromwich via Dudley. It's like a marriage, this route. Dependable, predictable, occasionally featuring odd smells you can't quite place. The 12 isn't what you'd call glamorous. We're not one of those fancy routes with USB charging points and Wi-Fi that go to Birmingham Airport. Just honest service for honest people who need to get places. Cleaners, shop workers, school kids. The odd pensioner with more time than money. I know every pothole between the depot and the terminus. Could drive it blindfolded, though the company frowns on that sort of thing these days. Health and safety gone mad, if you ask me. Not that anyone does. I've got regulars. Passengers whose internal clocks are so reliable you could set your watch by them. Doris with the four-wheel trolley who never sits down, just plants herself in the wheelchair space and grips the rail like she's expecting turbulence. The lad with the Tesco carrier bag of chicken bones who gets on at Bilston and eats his way through what must be an entire farm's worth by the time he reaches Dudley. Always offers me one. I always decline. Then there's Miriam, blue rinse and a tartan shopping trolley, who gets on at Owen Street and goes all the way to West Bromwich Market every Tuesday and Thursday. She brings me rock cakes at Christmas. They're lethal, could break a window with one, but the gesture's nice. These people aren't friends exactly, but they're constants. They're the background hum of my life, like the engine noise or the ping of the bell. So when I arrived at the depot last Monday to find a new route map pinned to the notice board, it put me out, not in any dramatic way, just unsettled me, like finding your furniture's been shifted 2 inches to the left while you were sleeping. End of service, Dudley interchange, it said, just like that. The entire West Bromwich section, 9 stops, gone, vanished, as if someone had taken scissors to the map and snipped off the bottom third. What's this about? I asked Jeff, the depot manager. He's been there 3 years and still thinks scheduling is something you can learn from a computer course rather than 30 years of knowing which routes flood when it rains. New service pattern, he said, not looking up from his tablet. Consolidation of resources. But I've always gone to West Brom. People rely on it. Jeff shrugged. Council's decision, passenger numbers, efficiency metrics. He waved a hand vaguely as if these words explained everything. There's the number 79 if anyone needs to get there. The 79 goes via Wednesbury, adds 20 minutes. Not our problem. New maps are in your cab, make sure you display them properly. And that was that. No consultation, no warning, just a shorter route and a curt instruction. I've learned over the years that arguing with management is like trying to convince rain to fall upwards. So I took my keys, did my checks and drove my new route. It's not that I love the bits past Dudley, some of it's no oil painting, concrete underpasses and boarded up shops. But it was my route. I knew which stops had shelters, which traffic lights had a delay, where the school kids would stampede on at 3:30. I knew who'd be waiting at the Stone Cross stop and the one by the library and outside the Methodist church. People whose faces I'd seen change over the years, getting older, getting tired, sometimes disappearing altogether. Now I'd just be turning around at Dudley. Like someone had drawn a line on a map and said, "That's as far as you go, mate. That's your limit." It's not that I love the bits past Dudley, it's just I always went that way. And I don't much like being told I can't. The first week of the shortened route went without much incident. A few regular passengers asked about the change. I gave them the company line about service optimization, and they nodded like that explained anything. People are used to things getting worse and being told it's for the best. But then strange things started happening. Small at first, easy to dismiss. We've got these new sat-nav systems installed, all singing, all dancing pieces of kit that management insisted would revolutionize urban transport solutions. Mostly they just tell you what you already know. You're on Corporation Street heading towards the market. Tuesday of the second week I fancied a slight detour, just a small one. There was roadworks on the high street, so I thought I'd nip down Castle Street and rejoin the route further on. Done it 100 times before. The moment I indicated left, the sat-nav screen flashed red. Route deviation detected, it announced in that posh woman's voice they all have. Please return to corridor. Corridor? Never heard it called that before. But I ignored it, turned anyway. Warning, unauthorized deviation, return to designated corridor. This time the voice had changed. Deeper, no longer female. The screen pulsed an angry crimson. All right, keep your hair on, I muttered, but carried on. That's when I saw them. Traffic cones across the road, fluorescent orange, brand new by the look of them, and a man in a high-visibility jacket standing beside them, holding a clipboard. Except, look, I don't know how to explain this properly. He had the jacket. He had the clipboard. He had the white helmet. But where his face should have been, there was just nothing. Not blank skin or anything horror movie like that. Just a sort of blurring, as if someone had taken an eraser to a pencil drawing. I blinked hard. When I looked again, he had a face. Ordinary. Forgettable. He waved me down. Road closed, he said, his voice exactly like the new sat-nav voice. Return to designated route. Since when? There was nothing about this at the depot. Subsidence, very dangerous. Return to designated route, please. I didn't argue. Something about him made my skin prickle. I reversed awkwardly and went back to the main road. The sat-nav immediately stopped flashing. Route restored, proceeding to Dudley interchange. That evening I decided to drive my own car past Dudley, just to see the old route, just to check everything was still there. Silly, really. Where would it go? I got as far as the Dudley Southern Bypass. The roads were oddly empty for 4:30. Not a car in sight. My fuel gauge, which had been showing 3/4 full, suddenly dropped to empty. The radio, which had been playing Sunday love songs, don't judge me, began to repeat the same 5 seconds of Islands in the Stream. I pulled over, heart hammering, switched the engine off and on again. The fuel gauge reset to full. The radio went silent. I turned back towards Wolverhampton. As I approached the junction, I suddenly felt desperately tired. My eyes grew heavy. I remember thinking I should pull over, that it wasn't safe to drive like this. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in my own bed. The kettle was boiling in the kitchen, the sound that usually wakes me at 5:15. My car keys were in the dish by the door, where I always leave them. For a wild moment, I wondered if I'd dreamed the whole thing. But there was mud on my shoes by the door, and my car wasn't where I usually park it. It was 2 spaces down. I went to check the road atlas that evening, the one I've had since 1998, with the coffee stain on the West Midlands page and the pencil marks where I've traced out diversions over the years. Dudley was there, Wolverhampton, Bilston. But where Tipton, West Bromwich and the rest should have been, the page just ended. Not torn, not blank, just a neat edge, as if those places had never been printed. It was like someone snipped the map, I knew Tipton used to exist. If I was the only one noticing these oddities, I might have convinced myself I was going round the bend. Bus driving's not the most stimulating job. Man can get strange ideas after too many hours watching the back of people's heads and listening to the same announcement about having the correct change. But the passengers noticed too. Didn't this used to go to Merry Hill? Mrs. Chambers asked on Thursday morning. She's been getting my bus to the shopping centre every week since her husband died in 2015. It did. They've shortened the route. Only goes as far as Dudley now. She frowned, her forehead creasing. But Merry Hill's still there, isn't it? The question unsettled me more than it should have. Course it is. You'll need to get the 276 from Dudley now. 276. She shook her head. I don't think I know that one. New route, I lied, because the 276 has been running for at least 15 years. Started this month. Mrs. Chambers wasn't on the bus the next day, nor the day after. In fact, I haven't seen her since. But on Monday, I found something on the seat where she usually sits. A name badge. Deborah Chambers, care assistant, Meadowvale Rest Home. That's a place out in Tipton, or it was. I pocketed the badge, meaning to return it if she came back. She hasn't. Then there was the schoolboy, year 10 by the look of him, all gangly limbs and a rucksack covered in band logos I don't recognise. My dad says the world's full, he announced, apropos of nothing, as we sat at the lights by the Halifax. So they're closing bits off. I caught his eye in the mirror. What's that, lad? Not enough resources, he continued, tapping away at his phone. They're reducing the operational area, like in a computer game when they've got too many players. You know, when they shrink the map. Sounds like someone's pulling your leg, mate. It's what my dad says. He works for the council. The lights changed, and I was glad of the excuse to focus on driving. But the boy's words rattled around my head for the rest of the shift. That evening I reported the route anomalies to the inspector, the sat-nav glitches, the unexpected roadworks, the strange man with the clipboard. Peter, call me Pete, nodded along, making notes on his tablet. And you're certain you didn't deviate from the authorised route? Well, I tried to. That's what I'm telling you. There was no notification of road closure, but... So, you admit attempting unauthorised deviation? His voice had changed, become flatter somehow. It wasn't unauthorised. Drivers have discretion when there's congestion. Peter tapped something into his tablet. The screen reflected in his glasses lines of text I couldn't read. I'm issuing a verbal caution for perimeter curiosity, he said, with the careful precision of someone reading from a script. Further instances may result in disciplinary action. Perimeter curiosity? What's that when it's at home? He didn't answer, just handed me a printed sheet to sign. The header read, Boundary Compliance Notice. I signed it because that's what you do. 22 years of doing what you're told builds habits that are hard to break. It was my day off when I decided to walk past Dudley. No car this time. Nothing that could run out of fuel or malfunction. Just me, my sturdy walking boots, and a packed lunch, cheese and pickle sandwich, packet of Quavers, flask of tea, and a boiled sweet for luck. I caught the 12 driven by Mahmood, who gave me an odd look as I paid my fare. Day off, innit? He asked, counting out my change. Thought I'd do some shopping in Dudley, I lied. Need new slippers. He nodded, but his eyes held mine a fraction too long. Don't go wandering, he said, too quietly for the other passengers to hear. It's not worth it, mate. I pretended not to understand. Took my ticket and sat near the back, watching familiar streets slide by, The same potholes I swerved around every day. The same faded advertisements on bus shelters, the same people waiting, expressionless, at stops. Dudley bus station was quiet for a Tuesday morning. A couple of pensioners on benches, a woman with a buggy, a man in a too large suit eating a pasty with methodical determination. I walked purposefully, as if I had somewhere specific to be. Past the market stalls selling mobile phone cases and knock-off handbags. Past the pound shops and the bookies, past the statue of Duncan Edwards, the Busby babe who died at Munich, frozen mid-kick for all eternity. Then I was on the Birmingham Road, heading southeast. This was where my route used to continue, towards Tiverdale, then Oldbury, and finally West Bromwich. I walked steadily, expecting at any moment to encounter some barrier, a man with a clipboard, perhaps, or mysterious roadworks. But nothing happened. Cars passed me, a woman walking a small, neurotic dog nodded as we crossed paths. Normal, ordinary. I began to feel a bit daft, all that worry over nothing. Of course I could go past Dudley, it was just the bus route that had changed, not the physical geography of the West Midlands. I kept walking. The road curved ahead, around a slight hill. I remembered this stretch, always had to slow the bus here because of the blind corner. As I rounded the bend, I felt a strange sensation. Not quite dizziness, more like the feeling you get when you miss a step in the dark. And there, ahead of me, was a sign. Welcome to Dudley. The same sign I'd passed 20 minutes earlier. The same cracked pavement beneath my feet. The same overflowing bin with the same flattened Pepsi can on top. I turned around. Behind me lay the road I'd just walked, curving back towards the town I'd apparently never left. I checked my watch. Still 10:47. The same time it had been when I'd passed the Duncan Edwards statue. My shadow hadn't moved an inch. I thought I'd looped round somehow. But the shadows hadn't moved, and the crisp packet by the lamp-post was still fluttering in exactly the same way. I tried again, walked faster this time, keeping my eyes fixed on the road ahead, round the bend. Another disorienting lurch, and there was the Welcome to Dudley sign again. The third time I tried a different route. Instead of the main road, I took a side street, then another, working my way south in a zigzag pattern. The streets grew narrower, residential, unfamiliar. Good. I'd found a way around whatever. I emerged onto a main road. There was the sign. Welcome to Dudley. I tried again. And again. 7 different routes, all leading back to the same sign, the same moment, the same flutter of a crisp packet that never quite settled. By the 4th attempt, I was running. By the 6th, I was sobbing. I don't know how long I kept at it. Time wasn't passing, but exhaustion still accumulated. Eventually, I collapsed onto a bench, chest heaving, the taste of salt and desperation on my lips. I sat on that bench until my breath came back. A perfectly ordinary bench on a perfectly ordinary street. Weathered wood, metal armrests, a small plaque commemorating someone called Derek who loved this view. Except there was no view, just a brick wall opposite and a lamppost, and a bin with a Pepsi can on top. That's when I noticed the pavement. The cracks formed a pattern. Not the random fractures you'd expect from weather and wear, but a precise, repeating sequence. Crack, small hole, longer crack, then 3 evenly spaced chips. Then it repeated. Exactly the same pattern, stretching as far as I could see in both directions, like a texture that had been copied and pasted. As this thought formed, a bus rounded the corner, the number 12, my route, my bus. I stood, waving instinctively, professional habit overriding everything else. The bus slowed. Through the windscreen I could see the driver. It was me. Not someone who looked like me, not a resemblance. Me, same uniform, same face, same bald patch I tried to comb over but which clearly isn't fooling anyone. I didn't stop. Just nodded once, the same nod I give to other drivers when I'm on shift, and continued past. I watched the bus disappear around the corner. I waited, half expecting it to reappear from the other direction, caught in the same loop I was. But it didn't. I walked back to the bus station. No one seemed to notice anything amiss. The man in the suit was still eating his pasty, though it hadn't diminished at all. The same sugary crumb clung to his lapel, unmoving. I caught the next number 12 back to Wolverhampton. Mahmoud had been replaced by a driver I didn't recognise. No one spoke on the journey, no bells rang for stops. People got on and off in silence, their movements smooth and coordinated, like dancers in a routine they'd rehearsed for years. My flat was exactly as I'd left it, except for the envelope that had been pushed under the door. Plain white, no stamp, no address, just my name, printed in a font that looked like handwriting but wasn't. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Attempted breach recorded, identity continuity maintained. Thank you for keeping the corridor operational. Below this was a paragraph of text so dense with acronyms and technical jargon, it was almost unreadable. Something about boundary enforcement protocols and perimeter integrity maintenance. At the bottom, in slightly larger text, your scheduled route has been optimized for stability. Deviations compromise system resources. Please adhere to your designated parameters. It wasn't signed. It didn't need to be. I didn't sleep that night, sat up watching the shadows move across my ceiling as cars passed outside. At least I assumed they were cars. I didn't look out to check. My alarm went off at 5:15. The kettle boiled. I showered, dressed, ate a piece of toast that tasted of nothing. Walked to the depot through streets that felt both familiar and subtly wrong, like a house where all the furniture has been replaced with identical copies. The bus was waiting. My bus, the number 12. I did my checks, lights, tyres, fluid levels, all normal, all perfect. My first passengers boarded at Wolverhampton, silent, orderly, exact. Doris with her trolley. The lad with his chicken bones, Miriam with her tartan shopping bag, though it wasn't Tuesday or Thursday. I drove. Smooth gear changes, perfect stops. The sat-nav murmured approval as I stuck precisely to the route. The streets passed by outside, crisp and bright as a photograph. Approaching Dudley Interchange, the sat-nav announced. Preparing for end of service. As I turned into the bus station, I caught sight of something. A flicker at the edge of my vision. Just for a moment, the world seemed to ripple, like heat haze on a summer road. The buildings, the people, the sky itself shimmered and shifted, revealing something underneath. Something that wasn't streets or shops or clouds. Then it was gone, and I was pulling into Bay 7, right on schedule. My passengers disembarked, new ones boarded for the return journey. No one spoke, no one needed to. As I put the bus in gear, I glanced at the route map fixed to the dashboard. Wolverhampton, Dudley, Dudley, Wolverhampton. Nothing beyond. Nothing else. I checked my wing mirror and pulled away from the stop. The sat-nav blinked green. Satisfied, contained. I kept driving. The end. Thanks for listening. Can't wait for the next episode. Get early access and much, much more when you join the Patreon community. Visit patreon.com/Jon Cronshaw author. I'm Not Allowed Past Dudley is copyright 2024 by Jon Cronshaw, all rights reserved. To find out more about Jon Cronshaw and his work,